She found it by accident. Sandra Bullock was cleaning out old boxes in her home. Boxes filled with memories she had forgotten how to look at. Scripts, photos, letters, awards, and moments captured in time. She had been carrying heavy silence for a long time, healing slowly from heartbreaks the world never fully saw. She smiled for cameras, laughed during interviews, but her heart had been tired, as if it had been walking through rain for years. The box she opened smelled of dust and time, like something untouched. Inside, she noticed a small notebook, worn, soft around the edges, familiar somehow. She flipped the pages carefully, not knowing what she was looking for. Then she saw his handwriting. KeanuReeves. Her breath softened. Memories of him came back like warm sunlight through clouds. Their laughter on set, long talks about life, quiet glances that felt like something deeper, but were never spoken aloud. They had shared something real, something gentle, something unspoken. But life moved them in different directions, different relationships, different heartbreaks, different lonely nights. She kept turning the pages. And then she saw it. A song. Written by him. Not finished, not polished, raw, honest. Every word felt like a whisper that had been held in his heart for years. The title at the top was simple. For the one who understood me without asking. Sandra single quotes S chest tightened. Her eyes slowly moved across the lyrics. The words spoke of two souls who found peace in each other's silence. Two hearts that never needed big promises to know they were connected. To people who could sit together in quiet and feel understood. The words were gentle but full of depth, like the kind of love that doesn't ask to be claimed, only felt. She pressed her hand to her mouth as tears filled her eyes. Not because the song was sad, but because it was true. He had written this for her. Years ago. Before the world talked. Before their lives got complicated. Before they both had to learn how to survive their own storms. Her phone was nearby. She looked at it, her heart beating slow and heavy. She had not spoken to Keanu in a while. Both of them had drifted, not from anger, but from life pulling them apart. She wondered if he remembered writing this, or if it was something he had hidden inside himself so deeply that he thought no one would ever see it. Sandra closed the notebook gently and held it to her chest. It felt like holding an old memory that still breathed. She whispered to herself, "Why didn't you ever tell me?" That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay awake, thinking about him, about the song, about the quiet connection that never disappeared, only waited. And she knew one thing clearly. She needed to see him. Not to ask questions, not to start something new, just to understand what had been true all along. The next morning, Sandra woke before the sun. Her mind had not rested. Every line of the song repeated softly in her thoughts, like a heartbeat she could suddenly hear after years of silence. She made tea, though she didn't drink it. She sat by the window, holding the notebook close, wondering what it meant that she had found it now. Life had a strange way of returning things when the heart was ready to see them. But she still didn't know what she wanted to say. Keanu lived a quiet life. Everyone knew that. Far away from crowds, far away from noise. He did not show his feelings easily, but when he cared with depth and truth. She respected that. She never wanted to break something fragile by approaching it without care. After hours of thinking, she finally sent him a message. Simple, gentle. Double quotes, "Hi, are you around?" She stared at the screen, waiting, nervous in a way she had not felt in years. Minutes passed. Then her phone vibrated. His reply was soft, like always. "I am here. Are you okay?" Sandra's breath shook. Even now, even after time and distance, he still asked about her heart first. She typed slowly, choosing each word carefully. "I found something that belongs to you. Could we talk?" There was a long pause, not cold, just thoughtful. Then colon double quotes, "Yes. Tell me where you want to meet." She chose a small park they had visited once years ago. A quiet place, trees, benches, and a small fountain that sounded like falling rain. She remembered that day. They had sat for hours, talking about life, about grief, about how sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is keep going. When she arrived, he was already there. Keanu stood beside the fountain, wearing simple clothes, hands in his pockets, looking like he belonged to silence. When he saw her, His expression didn't change dramatically. Just a soft, warm recognition. "Hi," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "Hi," he answered. Gentle as always, they sat down. The air felt still. The sound of water filled the space between them. She held the notebook in her hands, but she didn't give it to him yet. "I found this while going through old things," Sandra said quietly. Keanu looked at the notebook. A slow breath left his chest, like a memory returning. He didn't reach for it. He waited. "I didn't know," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't know you wrote this." Keanu's eyes softened, sadness and tenderness mixed together. "I wrote it when we were younger," he said. "I didn't know how to say what I felt, so I put it in words where only silence could hear it." Sandra looked at him, her heart full but delicate. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" she asked, not accusing, just wanting truth. Keanu looked at the water. His voice was quiet, honest, almost fragile. "Because I didn't want to break what was already beautiful." The silence between them held everything they had never said. And now, it was time to speak. The air around them felt full, like every unspoken word from years ago had risen to the surface, waiting. The fountain behind them whispered softly, almost as if encouraging them to keep going. Sandra held the notebook in her hands, tracing its edges with her fingertips. She didn't know how to begin, but her heart did. "The song," she said slowly. "It felt like you were speaking to me, like you were speaking to a part of me no one else ever saw." Keanu didn't look away. He didn't hide. His eyes stayed on hers, calm and gentle, the way they always had. "You were someone I didn't have to perform for," he said. "We were just ourselves, and that was rare. I didn't want to lose that by saying too much." Sandra felt her chest tighten, not with pain this time, but with truth. "But we lost each other anyway," she whispered. Keanu shook his head softly. "No, we paused. Life pulled us to different places, but we didn't lose what we understood." His words were slow and steady, like they had been carried for years and were finally ready to be spoken. But then, something unexpected happened. A photographer appeared at the edge of the park, camera raised. Not close, but close enough. Someone must have seen them meet and tipped him off. The world still watched. Even here. The piece of the moment cracked. The camera clicked once. Sandra flinched. Old fear rushed back like a wave hitting too hard. Keanu saw it immediately. His hand moved, not to pull her, not to shield her, but simply to rest gently over hers, grounding her, anchoring her, reminding her she wasn't alone. But the photographer stepped closer. Keanu stood up slowly. "Calm but firm, please," he said softly. "Not now." The photographer hesitated, then lowered the camera. Keanu did not look angry, only tired, understanding, human. And the photographer walked away. Sandra exhaled shakily. Her hands trembled. The moment had been broken, but not ruined. Keanu sat back down. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I still get scared when the world looks too closely." He shook his head gently. "You don't have to apologize for being human." She closed her eyes. One tear slipped down, quiet and honest. "I don't want to run from my own life anymore," she said. "I want to live it, but I don't know how to do that without fearing it." Keanu's voice was low, warm, steady. "Then don't run," he said. "Walk, slowly, with someone who will walk with you." Her breath caught. There was no confession, no label, no dramatic moment. Just truth. Careful, patient truth. Finally, she placed the notebook between them on the bench. "Will you read it with me?" she asked. Keanu nodded, a small, quiet smile forming. "I would like that," he said. Their hands touched again, this time. They didn't pull away. The world could talk, but the world did not know the story. Not the real one. It was theirs. They sat close together on the bench, the notebook open between them. The pages were worn, the ink slightly faded. Sandra's fingers hovered above the words, almost afraid to touch them. Keanu sat quietly beside her, his presence gentle, steady, not forcing anything. She began to read the first lines out loud. Her voice was soft, slow, full. "There are places in the heart where words cannot go. But you heard me there." Her voice trembled. She stopped, breathing in shakily. Keanu didn't speak. He let the moment be when it was. Sandra continued. You understood the silence I tried to hide. You sat beside my storms, even when you didn't know." She paused again. Swallowing hard. Keanu turned his head slightly, his voice almost a whisper. "I wrote it on a night when I felt like the world was too heavy. But when I thought of you, I remembered softness." Sandra looked at him, not with surprise, not with confusion. With recognition. "I didn't know I ever gave you anything," she said quietly. Keanu nodded once. "You gave me peace," he said. "And peace is rare." Those words settled into her soul like warm rain. For a moment, time paused. But then, the wind shifted. A group of people entered the park. Their voices were loud. Someone pointed, not immediately recognizing them, but close. Fear flickered across Sandra's face. Not because she was ashamed, but because she knew the world loved to twist gentle things into spectacle. As the voices grew closer, Keanu stood and offered his hand, not to hide, not to flee, just to guide her somewhere quiet. She took it. Together, they walked to a small path surrounded by trees. The noise faded behind them, replaced by the sound of leaves moving gently. Here, the world couldn't reach them. They stopped near a wooden bridge overlooking a small stream. Sandra leaned on the railing, breathing slow again. Keanu stood beside her, not touching, just being. "Every time something begins to feel real," she whispered, "the world finds a way to take it from me." Keanu looked out at the water. The reflection moved softly, like memory. "The world can only take what we let it take," he said. "We choose what stays ours." She closed her eyes. The simplicity of that truth felt heavy and freeing at the same time. "But what if people misunderstand us?" she asked. Keanu turned his head, meeting her eyes. "Then they misunderstand," he said calmly, "and we continue living anyway." Sandra let out a breath that felt like release. "I'm tired of running," she said. "Then stop," he replied gently. She looked at him again, deeply this time. "Will you stay?" she asked, not like a request, not like a plea, just truth. Keanu nodded. Not dramatically, not as a promise carved in stone. Just steady. "I will walk beside you," he said. "At your pace, no pressure, no rush, just presence." Sandra felt warmth spread through her chest. Not excitement, not fear. Something softer. Something real. They didn't hug. They didn't kiss. They didn't try to turn the moment into something bigger than it needed to be. They simply stood together, side by side, watching the water move. While something old and something new finally began to breathe, days passed, slow and gentle. Sandra and Keanu did not rush anything. They did not try to name their connection or explain it to the world. Instead, they chose small moments, morning messages, quiet walks, shared tea, laughter that returned softly, like a bird that had once flown away but found its way home. But the world did not stay quiet. Someone leaked the photo from the park. The blurry image of Sandra holding the notebook, Keanu leaning close beside her. Rumors began again. Headlines, gossip, endless speculation. Some said they were secretly in love. Some said it was for publicity. Others twisted it in cruel ways, the way the world often does. Sandra saw the articles as she scrolled through her phone one morning. Her breath caught, her chest tightening, not because the world thought they were together, but because the world was reaching into something delicate, something fragile, something private. She put the phone down and closed her eyes. A gentle knock sounded at her door moments later, as if he had felt her breath falter from miles away. When she opened the door, Keanu stood there. He didn't smile. He didn't ask what was wrong. He simply saw her and understood. They sat in her living room, the soft afternoon light falling across the floor. The silence was familiar, safe, but heavy with something unsaid. Finally, Sandra spoke. "I'm afraid," she whispered. Keanu looked at her, his voice steady. "Of what?" "That people will destroy this," she said. "They always find a way to take something pure and make it ugly." Keanu's expression softened, not with pity, but with shared understanding. "The world does not know us," he said. "They only know stories they create. But we are real, and real things are not so easily broken." She looked down at her hands. Her fingers trembled slightly. "I keep thinking," she said quietly, "that maybe we missed our moment years ago. Maybe the timing was never right." Keanu shook his head slowly. "Maybe," he said. The moment wasn't lost. Maybe it was waiting for the version of us who could understand it better. The words settled, deep and warm. Not dramatic, not poetic, just true. Sandra's eyes filled with tears again, but they were soft tears, like rain that nourishes instead of floods. She reached for the notebook, the song still open inside it. She placed it gently on the table between them. Would you finish it? She asked. Keanu looked at her. Only if we finish it together, he replied. Something inside her chest loosened, something that had been tight for years. They walked to the piano in the corner of her living room. It had been quiet for months, maybe years. Keanu sat beside her on the bench. She placed her fingers on the keys. He placed his hand over hers. No rush, no fear, no performance. Just two hearts remembering the same melody. The world outside continued talking. But in that room, in that moment, they created something the world could not touch. The melody grew slowly, like a sunrise. Soft at first, almost fragile, then warmer, fuller, steadier. Sandra's fingers moved gently across the piano keys, each note carrying something she hadn't been able to say. Keanu's voice was quiet. When he sang the unfinished lines, not loud, not polished, real, honest, human. It wasn't a love song the world expected, dramatic, bold, sweeping. It was something different. A song for the people who had learned how to survive grief. A song for two souls who had learned how to speak in silence. A song for connection, not possession. When they finished, neither of them moved. The music still floated between them, even in the quiet. Sandra looked down at her hands. They weren't shaking anymore. Keanu watched her with calm eyes. You found the song when you were ready, he said quietly. She nodded. I think I needed to be the version of myself who could understand it. He smiled, small, soft, deep. And I needed to be the version of myself who could finally say it out loud. There was no rush to define them, no need to declare something to the world. They had lived long enough to understand that the strongest things do not need to be named quickly. But life, as always, had one more test to offer. The next day, the media released the song lyrics. Someone had entered her home once long ago. Someone had copied the notebook before it was boxed away. Someone had waited for the right moment to make headlines burn. KeanuReeves wrote Secret Love Song for Sandra Bullock. The hidden romance finally exposed. Years of silence uncovered. The world exploded. Messages, calls, interviews, assumptions. Sandra stood at her window, the notebook pressed to her chest. Once, this kind of storm would have broken her, would have made her hide, would have made her silence her own heart. But now, she was not alone in the storm. Keanu walked into the room, calm as ever. He didn't look worried. He didn't look defeated. He looked steady. She looked at him, fear flickering in her eyes for just one moment. What do we do now? She asked. Keanu stepped close, gently resting his hand over hers, over the notebook. We tell the truth, he said, not to defend ourselves, not to convince anyone, just to live honestly. Sandra breathed in, breathed out. And what is the truth? She asked softly. Keanu's voice was warm, steady, full. The truth is that what we share doesn't need to be understood by the world. We don't owe them a performance. We only owe each other presence. Her eyes softened, filling with something quiet and steady, not fear, not confusion, but peace. They walked outside together. The world was loud, but they didn't rush. They didn't hide. They didn't explain. They simply stayed beside each other. Two souls who found each other not in perfect timing, but in the right one. And the song? It was no longer unfinished. It was theirs.